When your own family starts reminiscing about the days when you, quote, used to be fun, man, you have known you lost the room. Welcome back, everybody, to the days of our Montecito lives. That's right. It is a hell of a day we got for you because the Sussex crash report with my good pal Tom Sykes. We'll see him in just 2 hot seconds. That's right. It's been a week again for these fools. We've got the ultimate wedding snub. There's a royal reshuffle. And of course, Meghan's Geneva disaster. And as an added treat, at the very end, you're going to see some video of Doug desperately trying to fit in. That's right. Welcome back to the stage, my friend, yours, one of the co-founders of the Order of the Lobster, Tom Sykes. My God, how have you been? It's been a hell of a week, my friend.
It has been a heck of a week, hasn't it, Paula?
God, it's like the Sussex erasure is fully underway, and the palace didn't even have to lift a finger. I mean, they're doing it all on their own, flubbing. And now here comes the snubbing. We have got, first up, I really want to talk about this couple because you know I love them. I do. The upcoming wedding of Peter and Harriet on June 6th. Just, what, a week and a half away? And my God, it's like everyone is going except the fools. And in fact, it's the craziest thing, Tom, because I'd like to talk about this for a minute. Who's in and who's out? It's really a big deal, Tom. Let's go into who's out first.
Well, so the guest list for the royal wedding of the year. This is all we have in terms of royal weddings this year. So it'll be a big family event. And what we've seen is very notable that Harry and Meghan are not going. They will, of course, perhaps tell us that it's to do with the security, or it's to do with this, or it's to do with not wanting to distract or overshadow. But the reality is that they just they're not friendly with the Phillips family anymore. Zara and Peter and their mother have taken a very dim view of what Harry has done. I've been told by some sources that Peter is absolutely appalled by the way that Harry has behaved. And, you know, they're not going to be invited to the wedding. I mean, funnily enough, there's a story in Hello today saying, well, you know, they've simply fallen out of touch. They don't speak anymore. They don't have anything in common. So why would they expect to be invited to the wedding? But interesting, what we are seeing is Beatrice and Eugenie are being invited. So,
well, the other thing about that is, I mean, Peter was always used as kind of the lube between Harry and William, right? Like at Prince Philip's funeral and at Queen Elizabeth's. He's seen as this insanely likable guy. And you know, he and Harry have always gotten along, and falling out, or just falling out of touch, that's what happens with friends, Tom. It doesn't really happen with cousins, does it? I mean, you'd think you want your whole family there. Now, I get why they don't want Andrew Mountbatten Windsor or Fergie, not to mention, even if they were invited, Andrew would go, definitely, but Fergie's too absolutely terrified to come out of hiding because she's afraid she'll be nabbed by the cops. But talk about this BS of they've fallen out of touch, because I get they've fallen out of touch, but you know, if I were to get married tomorrow, not gonna happen, but if I were, I would say, yeah, I'm still inviting my cousins who I talk to maybe once or twice a year, check in on, because they're family. Is Harry pulling a full Meghan now?
I think that the reality is that it's nobody wants their wedding day overshadowed, right, by drama, by, you know, etc. So we actually saw this happen before, and you'll have to forgive me because I don't want to confuse them, but it was either Beatrice or Eugenie's wedding. where Meghan announced that she was pregnant with her second child. So the form is not exactly great from this couple when it comes to respecting the sanctity of other people being the star of their own big day. So I think, but I think that the bigger point is that there's just the core family just feel absolutely appalled, ashamed, despondent at what Harry and Meghan have done. So there's no place for them. But as you say, usually the relationship of cousins is so much more forgiving and indulgent than the relation of siblings. Shall we say? And I think cousins is such a wonderful relationship for that exact reason, that you can kind of be friends with your cousins in a different way that you're friends with your siblings. And you might have thought that if there was a way back for Harry and Meghan into the broader family, this would have been a very good opportunity to take it. So I think the fact that it's sort of definitively not happening, while not being a huge surprise, I think is a very clear sign of where the relationship with the broader family is. And as you say, Paula, Peter, I don't know if he was so much used as the lube, as the barrier between William and Harry at the funeral of the Prince Philip.
Okay, so by the way, maybe not the lube, the condom. Go on.
Yeah, the wall, I think, maybe to move into a different genre of metaphors. The stud wall, because he's quite a hunky fella, so I think that he was perceived as somebody who was able to, take the heat out of the situation, to be calm, to be relaxed, to be like, look, let's not let this stupid argument overshadow a really important royal funeral. And I think so. Therefore, I think it's very telling that where are we? 2026 is pretty incredible. If you think about, where the relationship was when they left in 2020, we knew that they weren't happy, but the toxic allegations hadn't been chucked back and forth. And I think in 2020, if you'd said, if Peter was to get married again, would Harry and Meghan be invited? You'd say, yeah, absolutely. Of course you would.
That's exactly. But you know what is also telling? Peter's sister, Zara, her husband, Mike Tindall, who I just love, they both seem like an insanely good time. Like if somebody was like, would you want to meet Harry and Meghan for a glass of champagne noir? I'd probably say no. Unless, of course, it was just to tell the story to, I don't know, everyone about it. Or would you want to meet up with Zara and Mike? And I'd be like, oh, hells to the yeah with Zara and Mike for the pub. But then you have Mike Tindall going on a podcast and basically saying, yeah, I knew Harry went back when he was fun. Oh, I mean, I think that this is basically showing Project Thaw is a wish list in Harry's head, along with taxpayer-funded security. I mean, what induced Mike to go out and say that? Do you think it was a slip of the tongue, or it was just like, oh yeah, we're done with him?
I think it's just the way he is, I mean, I think he was just speaking at a literary festival. I don't think he particularly expected it to be picked up by the media. I think it was like a talk. Someone there, wrote it down and sent it to the Daily Mail and probably got their 75 quid tip fee or whatever. So I don't think that he was sitting there thinking, what am I going to say? Because he's just not that kind of person. But I'd say off the top of his head, like it just came out. And that, of course, is where you often hear the truth, isn't it? And of course, Harry was a lot of fun. And there are a lot of his friends who think that, he became very po-faced and very kind of, I mean, like, there's so many stories, someone told me an amazing story once of like being at a party with Harry. They're all told, let's go outside. There's an Uber waiting outside. Two of them get into the back. They're waiting there. And then Harry comes running in, leaps through the back door and goes, go, to get away from his security, to go out and laugh for the night. But this is all like 25 years ago. Do you know what I mean? It's a long time ago.
Well, it's
And
also ironic because he's running to get away from his security and now he's begging
yeah,
for it,
yeah.
you know.
But
Well, yeah, go
I
ahead.
think it is, you know, look, lots of people become more boring when they get older. And Mike Tindall, you know, sure, like maybe Mike Tindall's got a point. I think he has got a point. I think Harry has got really boring. As far as I can understand, his idea of a good night out now is, you know, having a spliff around the swimming pool. Like, he doesn't want to go out. He doesn't want to go and do fun stuff. It's like, you know, there's no kind of, and I think on top of it, though, I think probably reading that, what most people will conclude from Mike Tindall is that it's not so much about not wanting to go out to the pub and drink 18 pints. It's about the whole attitude of like becoming really self-righteous, becoming really sort of po-faced, everything's really serious, everything, you know, blah, 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 blah. And I think that it's exactly the kind of stuff that sets Princess Anne, Zara's, Peter's, and their spouses' teeth on edge.
Well, exactly, because literally Princess Anne did not give her children titles. Her children were raised normally. They're wealthy, but, you know, they're normal people. And they act like normal people. They travel like normal people. They don't insist on security everywhere. And, you know, it's funny. I had somebody tell me this week who lives near Prince William and Princess Catherine. And they were saying, yeah, they just came to this school event. They're walking around. There may have been security, but you couldn't see them. And they drive around with their kids all the time. And she goes, it's absolute utter horse twaddle that Harry and Meghan, one of the reasons that they left was, no, oh my God, we're terrified to live in England. Our lives will always be in danger, you know. And they left and they go, no, I mean, we got William and Catherine walking around like normal people, showing up at school events like normal people, and it's just a total lie and BS. But it seems like he took a crash method acting course, you know, the second he got in with Meghan. Oh my God, I must be dramatical as well. And this is, nothing is safe. I mean, you know, I've always lived by the adage of just because you're paranoid don't mean they're not out to get you. But at the same time, that is badonkers. I mean, I just think he's off his little redheaded rocker.
Yeah, I think that the weird thing about the whole security thing is that, like, no one would know about Harry's security situation if he hadn't decided to sort of litigate it through the courts and through the media, right? So no one would actually know about this. And in a funny sort of way, if you think about where would Harry's security actually be had he not made such a big public, like, we don't know about what other members of the family's security arrangements are, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I can tell you for a fact, right, that there is a very elderly member of the royal family who's no longer a working royal, who, because of his previous exposure in life, has 2 armed police outside his front door all the time, despite the fact that he lives within a secure compound in itself, within the royal envelope. But the point is that I think that if Harry had gone about this whole thing differently about his security, rather than, as I say, sort of making it a very public cause, etc., I think it actually would have been much easier for the British security services to provide him with, you know, an appropriate level of security that would stop him getting murdered and killed, which nobody wants, right? But because he's made such a massive deal about it, it's sort of backed everyone into a corner, hasn't it? And it's so it's again, it's just an interesting example of how badly they've played the card of hands that they were actually holding in January 2020.
I mean, they always step in it, but you're absolutely right about elderly members. Like, look at Princess Anne, right? She's super normal. However, she was once the victim of a kidnapping plot. She batted him away and was like, no way. But you can't tell me that that girl does not have some sort of security around her now. But I think it's really fascinating because the more they scream and the more they cry, the British royal family is just kind of like, okay, next, which is why we come to this. the replacements. And I'm not just talking about the replacements in the royal family, but we're going to start with that because, as you and I both know, Eugenie and Beatrice have been sidelined. There are no royal engagements supposedly for the rest of the year. And even though we've got the royal family saying they want to streamline things, the problem is, you still have two members of the royal family with cancer, and a lot of times someone gets sick, you can't make it, whatnot. So you have to have the B team, which is now the varsity team, and the varsity includes, I'm told, after their wedding, Harriet and Peter are going to be working members of the firm. You also have Louise and Sophie who are stepping up. Now, Emma is included for other reasons, but that is not what is going to happen for her. She is the social replacement. So let's talk about that. So my story did actually say, after they get married, Harriet and Peter, who already have jobs, by the way, full-on jobs, they did what, Harry should have done. Harriet, yes, she's wealthy, but she is a single mother, doesn't get much support from her ex. She is a nurse at the NHS. Peter also has a job. Tell me about this. Like, what have they done that Harry and Meghan didn't do? And are you also hearing that they might be stepping up?
I think that what you're going to see, I think that you're absolutely right. They're going to be occupying a position, I think, kind of roughly analogous to what Beatrice and Eugenie had. So Beatrice and Eugenie were not full working royals, right? They didn't get support from the civil list as it used to be, the sovereign grant as it is now. But if there was a garden party and somebody needed to show up or be there, they would be called on. Now, the reality is that if you are now invited to a garden party at Buckingham Palace, I don't think you're going to be particularly delighted if you're sent off for a cup of tea with Beatrice and Eugenie, right? But however, because Harriet and Peter is a different prospect. Do you want to go be taken off for a cup of tea with them? Yes, we do. Thank you very much. So I think that while there's certainly no question that the King, or indeed Prince William, are going to significantly expand the ranks of the full-time working royals. And I'm sure Peter and Harriet, last thing they want to do is to become full-time working royals. I think they're definitely going to have a prominent B-team role, very similar to what Beatrice and Eugenie had. I do think that they need to look very carefully at the next generation, because they do need to bring on at least one new full-time working role. And yeah, Lady Louise is definitely the front runner in that at the moment. But to be honest, not a great deal is known about her. She's very private. She lives her life. She's at St Andrews University. It's hard to know, isn't it? And I think people are reluctant, especially given the disaster that's happened over the past few years, people are very reluctant to take on that job and take on that role. And William, actually, I'm told, would be entirely happy if it just, got slimmed down, was entirely slimmed down, and was just him, Catherine, George, and then potentially Charlotte and Louis. But even their roles, I'm told, are up in the air, because he just doesn't think it's fair to put that pressure on people.
By the way, you're right. Like, look at Lady Louise. She's what, 18, 19? She's going to college. Like, thank God you and I went to college and there was no social media or cameras and phones, right? Because when you go to college, you kind of want to go on a bender every now and again. You want to go to a kegger. You want to do some handstands in the park and go skinny dipping. And poor Lady Louise will never get that chance. But the bigger thing, I think, which is the commercial takeover, and Harry and Meghan are literally, I feel bad for them almost, if they weren't just such attention sucks. But, everything they think they want, well, guess what? Through their own actions, they're not getting, right? So now all of a sudden you've got Emma taking over in the commercial opportunities. You know, she is doing something no one ever thought the aristocracy should do. She's on the Ladies of London, which BT dubs is fabulous. Even though Derek Wang left and she was clearly the villain, we've got another villain. Her name is Margot. She's from California and does Montecito speak horsewash. So there we go. But Emma is taking over, and also Harriet is taking over kind of in the place of people's hearts. They're both hardworking. You know, Emma runs Longleat, and she also had her own cooking show, which many people say Meghan kind of ripped off. Meghan also ripped off Pamela Anderson, but she was taking her cues from Emma. Now, you also have Harriet, who is now taking over as the style master, right? Like everyone's like, oh, Harriet, you've got beautiful style. She is. And BT Dub, your sister Plum, needs to do a whole how to get Harriet's style on Main Street, you know, because let's be honest, we all don't have that kind of money for those dresses. But, you know, I mean, Meghan's got to be pulling her hair out, because while they've been kicking and screaming in a damn corner, everyone else has moved on. The public has moved on through Emma, who really hit main stage with the Ladies of London. But people, of course, in England have known about her for a while. Serena Williams is now like, see you later, Meghan. You're a drama queen. Emma, come with me to the Met Gala. And then you've got Harriet, who's doing what Meghan would have loved and being the freaking style queen of England. I mean, she's got to be going crazy, Tom.
I know. If they've just been a little more patient, eh, Paula? They've just been a little more patient. Could have all been theirs.
Yeah. Geez, you are not kidding. But then, of course, you can't, because you've got Meghan's disastrous trip to Geneva. And you know, she was facing allegations of plagiarism from her speech, which sounded awfully like an op-ed Dr. Dana Suskind wrote in many places. It showed up in the Chicago Times. And you've also got her showing up to a sparsely attended pre-event for the screens of the children who were lost to social media. And then, of course, we have this story that you broke, and I love it so much. She didn't show, after she did her screen speech, which possibly 24 people showed up for, and they were kind of looky-loos. They were like, oh, there's something being screened. I'm going to go check it out, right? They weren't like, we're here to see Meghan. We love you, right? But she immediately leaves for the main event and then goes to dinner. And I've got some questions for you about this, because at dinner, she takes this selfie. Now, this is driving me nuts. It's with a Finnish politician who's currently facing active allegations of sexual harassment and, wait for it, racism. Tell me exactly who this guy is and what he did, Tom.
Yeah, so he's basically a far-right Finnish politician called Willy Ryland. And it's, you know, he's the health minister for Finland, right? Because they've somehow, who knows, Finnish politics, they've got in a coalition, and the price is they have to give them the health ministry. So because the World Health Organization, Finland is a funder to the World Health Organization, and so they have to chat up their health ministers. So their health ministers get invited to the dinner, and they're told, hey, it's going to be great. Meghan's going to be there. So for once, everybody, rather than thinking, oh my God, I've got to go to Geneva to the incredibly dull World Health Organization Health Week, they're like, oh great, you know, in my Z-list Finnish politician world, this is quite fun, right? I'm going to get to see Meghan or whatever and get free dinner. So off they go. He takes the selfie, puts it online, and then before you know it, it's all coming out, all this stuff, all this abusive. I mean, I'm not going to repeat all the terms that he's used to people, but you can well imagine, if you want to look them up, you can look them up. But, you know, disgusting, abusive, racist, sexist, misogynistic abuse of women, alleged sexual assault. I mean, it's really bad, serious stuff. And what it does to me, Paula, is it's a couple of different things. I mean, it's like, it all sounds great, doesn't it, to hitch yourself to the World Health Organization, but actually the World Health Organization is kind of shambolic, great, gigantic, bureaucratic beast lumbering through the world. And and what's also really interesting on a side note, why is the World Health Organization getting involved in social media? Well, when I was in Geneva talking to NGO people, what they were saying to me is that because of all the cuts in the aid and the NGO world, all of these organizations are now trying to grab territory from other organizations. So it's not, they were not entirely remotely surprised at the World Health Organization, which should, frankly, in my opinion, be dealing with the Ebola outbreak in Southern Africa.
For the hantavirus.
Yeah, exactly. Is now getting involved with telling kids to get off their phones. And there's this kind of, the speech, Meghan's speech was kind of, in bits it was fine, but then in other bits it was kind of chaotic, talking about seatbelts and saying that, we didn't ask parents to design seatbelts. But of course, the World Health Organization didn't design seatbelts either. I mean, no. in fact, it completely made the point of what critics were saying of like, look, this is not the World Health Organization's area of interest. Stick to contagious disease, guys. Do you know what I mean? Like,
stick to what you know and can actually help with, because there's a lot of other people who got the social media thing covered, including the group that I work with, Fair Play for Kids, which Meghan likes to take credit for their work, and she's never contributed a dime or worked with them. Sorry, go on. Ugh.
Well, no. So I suppose the thing with this far right Finnish politician, what it really illustrates is that organising a overseas tour for a prominent individual is difficult, and it requires a lot of vetting, right? So there's an amazing film that was made many years ago by Jonathan Dimbleby about Prince Charles as he was then, and he's planning his trips overseas, and it's very funny because Charles kind of sits there and goes, "Oh God, it's so awful seeing my life set in," and it's very self-pitying and all of that. But in the context of this, it's really interesting because you see that there's at least 2, possibly 3 full-time staff involved in the planning. But then when he arrives in Australia, there's this unbelievable network of thousands of unpaid volunteers. So, and because of the goodwill, a lot of these people, like if you had a bit of power, right, and you had a bit of goodwill and a bit of organization, you'd be able to get a list of who was going to that dinner, and you'd be able to say, I don't give a shite if he's the Finnish health minister. I'm not getting in the same room as this guy, because someone would have time to go through it. Someone would have the bandwidth to check those names. And B, you might also have enough local people on the ground who would say to you, listen, I've heard that this guy's coming. I think either we need to make sure that he doesn't come, or else I think you're going to have to threaten to pull out because you can't be seen it. But like, that's a lot of organization. It's a lot of contacts. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of goodwill. A lot of things have to go right for that to happen. For this guy just to get up next to you and say, can I take a photo? And you to go, yeah, sure. Which was basically their defense, right? Their defense when I asked them about it. They were like, somebody asked for a photo. It's not possible to check everyone. Well, I think it frankly should be checked if you're at a dinner of the World Health Organization. I think you do want to check everyone. Sorry, just my opinion.
100%. It reminds me of that dinner where they just showed up and Brooklyn Beckham and Nicola Peltz just happened to be there, and they had no idea, even though it was a sit-down dinner for 10. You're just like, come on. This is redonkulous. I think she didn't actually do any research. I think she probably knew and was like, yes, I want a picture with the Finnish health minister. That gives me gravitas. Instead of actually just doing a quick Google search and being like, Finnish health minister, oh, hell no. I think, come on. It's just bonkers. Now, meanwhile, while her and Harry's also in a bit of a stink, his Invictus Games is a mess. A lot of people are talking about Archewell because Meghan went over under Archewell Philanthropies umbrella, which I'm not even sure is registered properly yet. And a lot of people are calling for Archewell Foundation to their actual taxes to be looked into, because I had a look at them and they're freaking dodgy as heck, right? And now I'm looking at Travelist, their other philanthropy, which basically tells big companies like Budget and, Booking and Expedia how to do things environmentally. It's a boondoggle, right? We all know what a boondoggle is. It's not, it's like, hey guys, if you click here, do you want to give some money to offset your carbon footprint? When, let's be honest, cash isn't going to offset any carbon footprint. You know what will? Not traveling on a private jet everywhere. However, there we are. And also, I've been looking at the Travelist tax returns, and they're really bizarre. There's a lot of questions. I'll get into that when I get back from my move. My move is next week. And yes, I want to sob about it. Moving on. Get it? Moving on. However, while they're doing this, what makes me kind of giggle is the real royals, like William and Catherine, are getting on with their life. Now, first, I want you to watch this and we'll chitty chat just real quickly about it. And here's William at hold on. Oh, there's William. I mean, that looked like fun. I mean, I can't listen to that song and not do a little dance. But there's William going out, having the best time with his mates, watching his soccer team win, and then later going on Heart Radio and talking about Catherine. We'll watch this, and I want you to tell me exactly your thoughts on that. Hold on one moment.
To say how well she did in Italy. She's just come back. That was her first foray out there since her recovery.
Yeah, I'm very, very proud. She's been amazing. She's been through so much in the last couple of years, particularly. And she's been looking forward to the Italian trip a lot.
I had no idea she spoke Italian either. Did she do that?
I didn't actually. So she must have dusted that off from a while ago.
And seeing her being able to sort of fulfill those duties must have made you feel very happy.
Yeah, very much so. She's an amazing mum, an amazing wife, and literally our family couldn't cope without it. So she's been absolutely stunning. Away trips like that take a lot out of you because you're on sort of permanent receive and send the whole time, and so we have to balance that, make sure she's okay and rested. But yeah, she's in good form.
You have to balance it with maybe a glass of wine and some pasta on the slide. I'm hoping that she grabbed that.
We all need a glass of wine every now and again.
We do. After 5.
I mean, first of all, again, we've talked about this before, but Catherine goes, she's the rock star to Italy. William's out living his life, looking like he's had the best time. I mean, Harry must be gnashing his teeth, sitting home alone at the pool, smoking a spliff and in Montecito and going, oh God, what did I do?
Well, we know what he did, sadly, which was hours after William gave that interview. Harry made a statement to GB News, well-known tolerant multi-faith outlet in the UK, saying, that we all needed to remember soldiers on this big important day. So it's very much like they're always trying to say everything the Walesers do is petty and pathetic. Catherine just goes to Italy and cooks pasta, and William just goes on to football and it's unimportant. Whereas we're doing the big stuff of like talking to the World Health Organization and talking about veterans. But they sort of miss the fact that, entire streets of Italy had to be closed down. Whereas, as Geneva, I was there, there were kind of 40 or 50 invited guests and 40, people standing around, maybe wondering what was going on. And the reality is that it's, in fact, there's some sort of PR behind this by William, which, if you really want to get into it, the Scilly Isles is part of the Duchy of Cornwall. The Duchy of Cornwall's under a lot of pressure. They've been selling off 20% of their portfolio. The tenant farmers are not happy. The Scilly Isles, which is a core part of the Duchy of Cornwall, feels sort of very unloved. So William's going there to try and catch up on this news cycle, which got ahead of them at Christmas. But, all of that, frankly, is irrelevant to the audience that they're meeting on TikTok, the audience that they're meeting on Instagram, the audience that William's meeting when he goes on Instagram and says, I love my wife's gorgeous, I want to go to the football and sing Sweet Caroline. And it's, you know, William has a really, really good digital PR guy, a guy called Lee Thompson. He used to work for NBC. It's an incredibly professional operation, but they're doing it all through the soft power. I think they're doing a really, really as good a job as they could be expected to be doing. There was actually one, I thought the most interesting line in that whole Hart interview was when they said, you had a good fun at the football the other day, didn't you? And he said, yeah. And he basically said, do you know what? Once in a while, I just try and forget who I am. And I just go and try and do something like that and be a normal person and have a laugh with my mates. And of course, you open the newspaper the next day and you realize it's got all this attention and everybody's talking about it. And it is weird. But I insist on my right to, occasionally go and do some normal things with my friends. And I thought it was very candid. I felt for the guy in that moment, actually. I felt for him in that moment.
Yeah, I hear you. And I like him. Now, meanwhile, I do have a quick question and then I'll let you go. Actually, I have two. Number one, the reports of Meghan telling Harry to stay home, true or not? And then the difference between William's PR game and Harry's PR game. At it. Go.
Well, it was funny, wasn't it? Because you would have thought that the World Health Organization would be a classic example for a joint appearance, because we were told repeatedly that Harry was going to be doing the serious philanthropic stuff and Meghan was going to be doing the commercial stuff. And Harry seems to have a much clearer message on social media, which is let's burn it all to the ground and kill everybody involved in it. Whereas Meghan has this very confusing message around social media, which is like, I'm going to use it to promote my business, but I think it's a really bad thing.
Yeah.
So it did seem slightly odd that it was just Meghan there. I mean, I don't know the details of their diary arrangements, but it certainly prima facie seemed very strange to just have Meghan showing up to denounce social media yet again, literally as she's posting a picture of her kid in her wardrobe. So,
which, by the way, she then sold on One-Off. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, and One-Off, of course, dreams, I'm sure, of becoming a platform with social media engagement features where you chat with other people about your clothes and you say, I like this and I like that. And she's an investor in it. It's a very, very confusing message, and which I think speaks directly to the PR thing of what.
Although, by the way, I would like to know how much she actually invested, because a lot of these things, I know in New York, like when a new condo was being built, this is back in the 2000s when New York real estate was not as hot as it was. They would bring in celebrities to live there for a year or two for free to say, oh, and I'm pulling a name out of a hat, Jennifer Lopez bought in this place, or Sing Song bought in this place, or Bling Blong. And I wonder how much she actually invested, because she is tight-fisted.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm sure the investment maybe didn't come out of, it was maybe in lieu of...
in lieu of press. It's kind of like when Angelina Jolie was the producer on The Outsiders, and her, she paid them in kind. She didn't put a dime in. She went and said, I'll do press. And to her credit, she did do massive press, but she did not put any money in. Now, just the final question, the difference between Harry's PR, Meghan and Harry's PR, and William's PR.
Do you know, Paula, you haven't been watching your YouTube tutorials. You're never meant to say final question, because the moment you say that, the evil algorithm at YouTube picks it up and starts popping up other stuff. People start clicking off. They're not going to be here to hear me say that they need to watch my channel, the Royalist channel.
Well, by the way, and they're not going to, if they click off right now, they're not going to see Doug trying his best and semi-failing. So,
I don't know if a clip of your dog is an equal match to the YouTube algorithm. Much as I love Doug, much as we all love him. Look, I think the reality is that King Charles spends millions of pounds a year on a press office. You know, that's the reality. Harry and Meghan can't compete with that. And they also don't have that kind of massive network of unpaid goodwill because they've, you know, just spent the past 6 years lobbing rocks at the royal family. So people aren't inclined to give them the benefit of the doubt. I think that's the bottom line. And I think that they're reaping the bitter rewards of that now.
I agree. Although I will say an operation like Sunshine Sacks is around 30 grand a month. And then you've got Liam with his own salary, probably like £5,000, which is 7 grand a month or whatever they're paying him. So that is, you know, it's a hefty, almost $500,000 a year if they're being charged properly. I just think it's bonkers. But you know what, Tom? All I really have to say is thank you so much for spending Memorial Day with the lobsters. Lobsters unite. Oh, I know it looks like Spock, but we'll move on. Lobsters unite. Oh. And you guys, literally, if you want serious royal scoops, check out Tom, not just on YouTube, which is the Royalist channel, but then go to the Royalist on Substack and on Instagram, because I mean, he's pretty darn fabulous. Tom, thank you so much. Wait backstage. I'll chat with you in a hot second. Now, meanwhile, everyone, I promised it, and not a liar. So here it is. We've got the turd. Now, listen, he is from the mean streets of Georgia, and he got confused. He'd never seen a lobster. So this is what he put on instead. I believe it's a dragon. They have dragons in Georgia. What can you do? This poor guy. We're fixing it, though. He whipped this out, and I said, all right, Doug, I'm gonna make it so that you next time don't have to be ashamed and be laughed at with your dragon outfit instead of your lobster. It's coming. It will be in the new house, which we will get next month. And until then, like, subscribe. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you. I hope you have an insanely awesome Memorial Day. I will be doing a video with Kinsey Schofield. Next week, I will put it up on the community post in YouTube and on Substack. Like, subscribe. I love and appreciate you guys. Drop your comments below. I mean, you know, what do you think? What do you think of all this mishigas? What do you think of the replacements? And how do you think Meghan and Hair Bear are dealing with this? Because I got to tell you, I don't think they're doing that well. And I think there's a lot of hair pulling out, and Harry doesn't have that much hair left to pull out. All right. Have a great Memorial Day weekend. Mwah. Love you guys. Thanks.